You're listening to WKDW Radio and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in beautiful Northport, Florida. And it is such a great, great day out there. Let's just do a quick reminder. Every time I do this, I use the quick reminder method. Take your time getting home. I used to work level one trauma center, Columbus, Ohio. And there's no value in spending 6 months in ICU. There's no value in putting a loved one in the ground, and there's no value in putting yourself in prison because you've done something stupid on the freeway. So everybody just take those three things. If you just live by those three things on the road, just relax. I get it. 65, 75, that's not enough. Keep it under 80. If we can just keep you under 80 down our freeways, I dare say that every police officer out there would be happy if everyone just focused under 80. It would definitely make their lives much, much better, and those hospitals much, much less busy. Because a wreck is not worth anybody's time. Trust me, it is not. So I've got a very, very special guest in the house today, Billy Carlson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on again. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's really being part of Northport and watching Northport grow and really step up and do different things. We talk about the recycling stuff a lot. Emphasizing that is just as important as keeping our waterways clear and making sure everything's happening. And we've got a rainy season just around the corner, and you guys are already probably out there clearing waterways and making sure debris is out of the way. So when that stuff comes down the canal banks, you're not out there in neck deep water versus knee deep water.
Right. Constantly monitoring waterways.
How are things going in our waterways?
At this point, it's I don't have any let's say preponderance of complaints. I believe they're just working the usual maintenance, keeping them cut low. We did have someone actually file a request through North Report asking what the blue dye was all over the plants and stuff near the waterway, and that's again just maintaining vegetation, weed control. And if you do see the blue dye, all that is just blue coloring so that they can make sure they've seen where they're spraying. So
it's not a chemical that's going to hurt anyone, correct?
Correct. What they're spraying with is, I believe, EPA approved. It's been approved by the state. It's not been seen to be overly harmful to residents. I don't know that I would go out and drink glasses full of the water, but just as they're spraying it and controlling vegetation, my understanding is that it's not harmful to us. And again, the blue that you see in it is just blue dye. It's just there to put color to what they're spraying.
And that just gives them an idea of what they've hit, right?
Correct. That's just, to make sure that they're not over covering, certain areas, being wasteful. They're just kind of keeping track of where they've sprayed.
So what's the value of keeping vegetation down through the canal systems?
Most of it is to, keep the waterways flowing, things like that, so that we don't get, part of it is, these areas are hard to get to with mowers and things like that, especially when rainy season hits and the water level starts rising. It's easier to maintain the vegetation through weed control and things like that from the waterways. As we've seen, once rainy season hits, the water can kind of start to rise pretty quickly. So, this is part of it is just them getting out in front, general maintenance. Obviously, some ditches are easier to mow with the big equipment than others, and the ones that aren't as easy, if they can spray ahead of time to keep the weeds down as much as possible, then we'd like to do that.
Do real quick, how many miles do we have of waterway?
I believe it's something crazy like 80 miles, 86 miles,
I,
something.
I was thinking 84.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
It's a huge number, and in the United States, we're probably one of the highest.
I believe so. I,
We got to be in at least the top five, I would
I,
think, if not higher than that.
I want to say that they one of our posts over the summer when we had all the tropical storm activity and stuff going on, um, they mentioned that it was actually more mileage and waterways than Venice, Italy, which is like world renowned for their water based travel. So,
Well,
kind of gives you an idea.
with that many miles being into play, we've got a lot of stuff that's happening out there with all kinds of debris that gets brought down through the riverway. Um, I know we've talked about this in the past, but have we done any more advanced cleaning this time of year because the waterways are under control, so to speak? They're not enlarged.
Well, they're constantly monitoring the water control structures for any kind of blockages or anything that may be coming down the stream, potentially to block water control structures, because obviously those are in place to keep the water flowing, which these days is a little less than when we saw in the peak in July, August, September. But yeah, it's something that we're constantly monitoring because, again, if you can get out in front of it, it reduces the reactionary nature of storm season. And again, that points to the vegetation control. If they can keep it low, keep it down during the off season, kind of helps prevent buildups during rainy season when we have a little less control of Mother Nature.
So, and I see on the website, and just so you know, if you're watching or listening on 97.5 FM, we actually are showing this video or this show on live on the air, and we also put information up during the show. So you're more than welcome to join us on YouTube, on Facebook, WKDW Radio 97.5. You can join me on Facebook on mine, which is Real Talk 97.5. And we've got actually the storm management site up right now. With the storm management side of things, if people see something in the drinking water, something that's in the even a grocery cart, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet, but I know that there are things that end up in the canals that we really, whether it be a kid doing it or just something that happens, even when storms happen, things end up in our canals, and that's our drinking water, basically. 941-240-8050. Isn't that a good number for people to call?
Absolutely. We've talked about it before with solid waste and recycling, and things have been missed, or road repairs and stop signs and things like that. Still applies, to the waterways. If there's something you've noticed that seems out of sort, if you have questions, hey, what's going on? What's going into my water? What are they spraying? Why is it blue? Things like that. You can always call customer service, like you said, 941-240-8050, and they will, they'll take your information and have one of our operations crew reach out to you and kind of let you know what's going on. By the same token, if you notice, like you said, a shopping cart or someone's runaway little dinghy, or someone's deck floated away. These are all things we saw last year after Tropical Storm Elsa. Some of them I witnessed with my own eyes. um, those are things, again, you can file a request through North Report, or you can call customer service, or you can reach out to us on Facebook and say, hey, this is where I live. This is what I saw. Can you please have somebody investigate it? And, much like everything else, we'll have somebody out to take a look as quick as we can.
And is our response time still really good with North Report? Because I'm amazed every time I ever put anything in.
It absolutely. Obviously, the time it takes to get somebody out to investigate just kind of depends on where it falls on the list of things. But again, things like stop signs, traffic signs, things like that. If we have issues with traffic lights, things like that, will take precedence over other things, and they'll work to get out there, sooner, as soon as possible. Usually same day. I don't know that I've seen one that wasn't same day. But yes, we have. I try to make a daily routine to at least check in on it and see what new things are coming across. And respond as quick as we can, for sure.
Tell people where they can find that app. And it truly is. I mean, we're dealing with a younger population here, but we have a good mix of the older population, and thank goodness to COVID. And I can say that out loud for one good reason is people have, I think, advanced themselves into the electronics
Sure.
and looking at things a lot different now for communication. So I think we have a lot more people who are into using the technology, which really helps us because doesn't that speed the process up of getting the information to the right players?
It sure can. There are times where obviously our customer service reps, they take hundreds of calls every week. So they're not always going to get every call right away. Sometimes you have to call back once or twice. But the website is there. The North Report app. If you go to the Apple Store, iTunes Store, App Store, and the Google Play Store, the North Report app is there, free to download, free to use. See Click Fix, which is associated with the North Report app, is also there, free to use, free to download. Same as the Recycle Coach app. And you can file requests there, and they'll get sorted to the right departments, and then we'll respond as quick as we can. So absolutely, I mean, if you're having trouble getting through to customer service for whatever reason, I mean, it could be you called at the exact time that three other people are already on the line, or there's because we have three reps, and we have I think 50,000 people, 70,000, somewhere around there. We've got a large number of people in the city, so there's always chances that you're going to call at the same time as a handful of other people. So if you're having trouble getting through for whatever reason, North Report is there, and it's a fairly easy process. If you're not the type that's necessarily keen to mobile phones, smartphones for whatever reason, you hate that newfangled technology and things like that, and you'd rather get on your computer, you can go to cityofnorthport.com, and if you hover over online services at top, there's North Report is on the drop down menu there as well, and then that brings you to the web-based platform to file a request there as well.
And I will say that it's probably one of the easiest things to utilize when it comes to apps. It's very self-explanatory, very information friendly. You can document with a picture, which is really cool. So if you see something out on the roads, if you see something at Parks and Rec, you see anything in the waterways, they'll make sure it gets in the right hands and redirect whatever needs redirected. But man, I got to tell you, I've talked about this app over and over again, but the more I'm out in public, I actually tell people about it. I'm sure you do the same. Isn't this just trying to encourage people to make city workers aware of what's happening?
Exactly. And especially like something with the waterways. If for whatever reason a neighbor's boat became untethered in the canal and it's drifting down the canal, like we said earlier, there's 80 plus miles of waterways in the city. We can't cover all 80 miles all at once. So there's a good chance if you see it, you're going to see it before we do. Please just give us a heads up, and we'll get it taken care of.
What's the and I don't want to say service time, because from start to fix on road signs, it's got to be pretty daggone quick. Yes. With the waterways, to see something in the waterways, they probably get those things taken care of right away too, right? Just because they don't need the cause and effect happening.
Right. So I know over the summer when we had Tropical Storm Elsa that came through even before all the flooding issues. We had, I was making my way around the morning after it came because it came through overnight, as I'm sure everybody remembers. And we were making our way around to check out different reports of flooding here and there and different objects. And somebody said, "Hey, there's a boat hitting this water control structure." And I mean, we had people out before I even knew about it. I was getting calls or emails from people saying, "Hey, do you know what's going on over here? We see public works guys out here dealing with this boat." So we made our way over to see what's going on, and one of the neighbors out there said, "Oh yeah, I live a couple blocks away, and I saw that go past my house at 5 in the morning or whatever." So, some of it, yes. Obviously, again, it depends on the severity of the situation. But if somebody files an issue with North Report and says, "Hey, this boat is making its way down the waterway, please send help," we're going to work to get out there as quick as we can so that it doesn't do things like damage the water control structures or end up on somebody else's yard.
Well, I've got a question from Brian Lincoln. Is the city of Northport or the residents responsible for cleaning the drainage pipe underneath the residents' driveways?
Okay, so the residents are responsible for keeping the ends clear, maintenance of the ends of the culvert pipes to reduce blockages. If for some reason you think you've got some buildup of dirt, mud, rocks, any kind of debris underneath, we will have somebody come out and take a look. They do inspect it, and they can clear that out for you. I will say if it's massive dirt buildup under there, it does end up looking pretty messy on the other side of the pipe when they blow it out. But that is something we can help take care of. And at that point too, they would tell you, "Hey, this is why we think, you've got a dirt buildup. The pipe may be failing," things like that. At which point, replacing the culvert pipe would fall on the homeowner.
Okay, which makes sense. Brian, I hope that answered your question, my friend. Let me know if it did. That was a pretty thorough answer. Do we see a lot of damaged culverts out there?
I will say it depends. It depends, I think, kind of on when the houses were built. I think at one point the aluminum or corrugated steel pipes were the rage. At some point, PVC drainage pipes became a thing. More recently, the cement drainage pipes are an issue. I know we bought our home in 2011, and it had been built in 2006. And our pipe was metal, and it was just in god awful shape. So it was failing. The dirt was going through it, underneath it, washing everything out. And when we finally got it replaced last summer, and when they pulled it out, I mean, the guy told my wife, he said, "Watch, this pipe shouldn't bend at all." And he picked it up and crumpled it like a piece of paper. It was awful. So I think some pipes are more prone to failing quicker than others. But again, that's something you can give us a call and say, "Hey, I think there might be something wrong with my pipe. Can you tell me, is this what's causing it? It seems blocked. We're having drainage issues." And they will help highlight whether it's something in the pipe or if maybe a neighbor's got a high point in their swale, and see how we can get that fixed.
He said, "Thank you, Billy. My pipe is filling with sand, maybe 30 to 40%. Should I call the number John read earlier to get someone to inspect?"
Yes, I would recommend calling customer service 941-240-8050. Tell them you're having drainage issues. You think your pipe could be blocked. They'll come out, take a look, and give you advice on where to go from there for sure.
With everything that's happening out there with drainage, I know that I was over in the general development, the old section, straight across from Winn-Dixie, and
Okay.
a lot of what we had over there had nothing to do with culverts, believe it or not, in my section, because it was your driveway was actually designed with a V like a culvert,
Right.
and so you didn't have you didn't have the culvert underneath the driveways. But what I did see when I lived over there is that sometimes the areas were raised higher than others,
Right.
so you have a backlog of water standing. Um, and I don't know if it's still a problem over in that area, but Otis and Scorpio, uh, there was the the water would sit there on that corner.
Hmm.
Not terrible, and trust me when I tell you, we live on sand and we're like right next to the water. Uh, if you call and complain, the 2 hours it takes them to get there, the water's gone.
Right.
Not standing water for days. Isn't there a standard of what we look for as far as how long the water is actually standing after a rainstorm?
Absolutely. So the current standard we have is that the swales and everything are designed to hold water for up to 72 hours between any rain periods. So essentially, let's say it rains today, then come 4 o'clock Thursday, you come out and there's still water sitting in your swale. That would be the time to give us a call and say, hey, it's been a few days. My swale's still holding water. I think I may have drainage issues. Can you help? But if it rains tomorrow, that clock resets. Now it would be Friday afternoon. If it rained again Wednesday, now you're looking at Saturday afternoon. So a lot of times the trip ups we've had is people, call the next day and go, hey, my swale's still holding water. What's going on? And there's typically a 3-day period for the water to work its way either through the swales down to a drainage outfall, or just to be absorbed by the soil. And some of that depends on where you live. I live out in the estates area, and our the groundwater level is basically like a foot below the soil. So we pretty much just hold water all summer, and that's not that the swales aren't doing what they're designed to do. It's just the nature of living out where we're basically a floodplain.
Right. Well, you're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM, and we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter out there and in social media world. So if you're fortunate enough or blessed enough to be watching on Real Talk 97.5 or Real Talk on Facebook, or WKDW on Facebook or YouTube, I really appreciate you guys chiming in and asking questions. Mr. English has a question. I'll let you read that one out loud.
Percolation standard is set by Swift Mud, not the city.
All right. Do you have a question that goes along with that, Bill? Mr. English. So I, I'm not sure what percolation is. What is that?
I believe that's kind of what we were just touching on, as far as how long it takes for the water to kind
Oh,
of make its way through the soil and make its way through the soil system.
I'm glad that that's a word I hadn't heard, and I'm just glad he threw that in there. Then,
I'm,
uh,
I'm assuming that's what it's in reference to.
well, I'm sure that Chuck is going to be all over the keyboard here in a second and letting us know. But I appreciate the insight because he definitely is one of the citizens out there concerned about the drinking water and what we're doing with it. And I know that we're working hard to keep everything moving the right direction.
Right.
Any issues that we should know about with our drinking water, or anything that's out there
So
that's in conversation
never
right
mind.
now? You got to turn your lights back on.
So at this point, I don't know that there's any set issues that we're looking at. I know we have a fairly standard grid project, what they call a grid project. So they're constantly working on certain neighborhoods. They've got a timeline set. Right now, they're continuing to work in neighborhoods off of Salford between Price and the highway, and so they're continuing to improve drainage there. It's a constant effort. they'll dig this neighborhood out, and then probably, another 5, 10 years, some of these houses will just need it again. It's natural progression of the ground when you deal with so much rainwater and things like that. But it's a constant continuing project. So we've got crews that work on that throughout the year. And then as rainy season comes and people realize they have drainage issues, we've got another crew that kind of goes through a schedule. As these people call and request help, they get put on a schedule, and these crews go through and just kind of knock them off the list as they go.
With our canals the way they're set up, do we widen those at all, or do we leave the natural sides the way they are until we need to go in and clean those up?
I believe at this time they are not widening.
So they're pretty much leaving things alone. When you I'm going to ask this question because I'm trying to learn more about it, and maybe you do have an answer for it. I'm not sure you do. If they were to widen, doesn't that mess with the really the foundation of the canal itself, because of how it's laid out, and the vegetation is already there holding it in?
Right. My assumption would be that any widening of the canal, whether it's, at the beginning up near the Mayakahatchee, let's say the Big Slough Canal, for instance, the one that runs all the way through town, kind of down the middle. My natural thought would think if they're widening, at any point, whether it's the beginning or the end, I think naturally that's going to cause, some kind of change in water flow. Whether that's ideal or not is kind of above my pay grade. I think we have personnel who study those kind of things, keep an eye on those kind of things. And then the other part of that is I don't know if there would have to be special permitting and things they would have to do to get on board with that.
And then, Chuck English, is there a schedule for future dredging of canals and waterways?
I don't believe so at this time. I could look into the matter, check with our operations staff and see if there's plans for that in the future. But I personally do not have a schedule accessible to me that they're planning to do that.
We've done this in the past, and I know it's been a while since we've had anybody come in and really talk about our canals and the healthiness of our canals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we can set that up on a future show?
Sure.
I really think that would be a really interesting topic to find out exactly what that team of city workers actually does, and how they keep our drinking water, one, moving, but two, healthy.
Right. For sure.
And then, just I actually think Chuck would probably be the first one on the bandwagon for that one, just to hear what they have to say, because I know that drinking water, I don't know in our lifetime if it's any more focused on today than it has been ever. We just have to learn to take care of our drinking water. And with so many people moving into our area, I know we do a really good job educating at like newcomers and different things like that about the canal systems.
Right.
And actually, I'll put this up because Chuck was all over it in a heartbeat. He would love to have that show. So just having citizens who are watching, who are interjecting into this too. But I really think having new people out there who are catching on to the show and learning about the canals, because a lot of people, I mean, whether you come from Columbus, Ohio, like I did, we had a river, we had some canals, but we didn't have what we have here. And we never got told or talked about it being drinking water. You come from New York City, you turn on your tap. You don't think about the canals in Northport drinking water. So I'm just throwing it out there because we've got such a huge melting pot of people out here now. I think it would be a great show to have on.
Sure, absolutely. And I mean, even just in the state, it's such a different kind of community here than other places. I grew up in Naples, and I don't remember really ever dealing with the waterways like we do here. I mean, there's neighborhoods. I mean, you get out in East Naples, it's kind of, it touches on the Everglades and things like that. But I mean, throughout the city, like it is here in Northport, I don't know many communities that are like this. You have large areas of Naples that you're not on canal front property. You don't have the green belts running behind your house, the retention ditches all through your neighborhoods and things like that. It's just all city sewer, city water.
You,
It runs through the pipes underground. Whereas here, anywhere you live, there's a decent chance you've got a canal running through your either your backyard or a backyard within a few streets of you.
absolutely. Well, I look forward to that show, and it's kind of funny because you grew up here, I grew up in Columbus, and we kind of have the same mindset when it comes to the drinking water and the styles. And I didn't learn anything about our canals when I first moved here. I don't know that 23 years ago, I don't know that that was a hot topic.
Right.
It is more of a hot topic now, I think, because of the amount of people moving here today. I think we would have been there quicker in '08 if we wouldn't have had the economic downturn.
Sure.
But, we're on pace to kind of blow out some really huge numbers. And if people are moving down at 3,000 people a day into Florida, there's a good portion of them that are heading this direction. We've got one of the hottest areas in Northport up in the West Villages, and it's just crazy. Their drinking water is now a new drinking facility, and I definitely want to get somebody in to talk about how this all works together, because I think it's a joint system where you're working with public works, or you're doing the public works side and
Right.
cleaning the canals, but then you have the water department that's different than you, but yet you're working together to try to make sure that we all have good quality water. Correct?
Right. Right.
Do you? And now that I kind of brought them into it, do you, as public works, do you guys hold conference meetings about the drinking water and what's going on, and kind of get on the same page of different projects that are out there?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if our operations leadership, if they sit down with utilities at any point to discuss these kind of things. I know a lot of times there are projects that they're working on that we find out about after a resident says, "Hey, what are you guys doing over there?" And it's not us.
Right.
But they may have regular conversations as far as water flow, what we're doing as it pertains to them and how they're keeping the water clean, for consumption and things like that.
You guys don't do any of the testing then of that water, correct?
I believe our stormwater manager, Elizabeth Wong, she may be involved in some of the testing. I think she tests the water quality for certain aspects. I don't know if I don't know if it pertains, to the quality of drinking water at that point.
Right. And we, just so people understand, our canals are not all just built on water that's flowing down a river, correct?
Right.
And so we get a lot of water runoff of the freeways and different streets. Even out in the estates, you get runoff from the park and even the state park that's behind.
Correct. So we do have that. The big slough, as it's called, is just a big swampland north of us, flows into the Myakkahatchee State Park and the Myakka River, which the Myakkahatchee State Park kind of makes its way through the Big Slough Canal that comes all the way through town, and our various waterways all come through town, and they kind of all pretty much meet, out towards the Myakka River. So we've just got this steady flow of water from all areas of town that eventually all make their way south. We've got kind of a unique community where we're sandwiched between this swamp and the harbor, and the water's got to go somewhere, and we're that somewhere. In some cases, it's unfortunate, like when Tropical Storm Elsa came through, and we just got, just water after water after water just kept coming and kept coming. And occasionally it's Mother Nature. At some point, we're going to have events like that.
Absolutely. So we've kind of hammered the water thing, and I know we've talked about the recycling stuff in the past. Is
Mhm.
there anything new that's happening? You've got the schedule out there for rainy season, so we know that that's coming. But there's some changes on solid waste, isn't there?
Okay, so we've got actually kind of a busy month ahead for solid waste in public works, kind of in general. We're going to start firing up a bulk waste campaign here to help educate, especially with all the new residents. We've had a few neighborhoods where neighbors have complained that their neighbors just do nothing but put stuff out by the roadside and then it doesn't get picked up. And so our process there, and this is something we're going to kind of hope to educate people on as we go forward. Um, if they don't call in, say we could pick up, let's say it's a Wednesday collection, and we pick it up on Wednesday. Neighbor puts out furniture Thursday, doesn't ever call it in. The truck drivers come around on Wednesday and say, "Hey, here's a bulk pile. Is it on the schedule or is it not?" If it's not, they put it in, gets collected the next week. The reason being, any given day, we could have as many as 100 bulk pickups on the schedule. And when you're talking about a truck that has to collect and then make the half hour to 45-minute drive out of town and up the highway to the dump, to the landfill, wait their turn there, dump while they're up there, and come back, that's at minimum an hour long drive there and back, round trip, plus whatever time they sit and wait at the landfill for their turn to dump, and then come back into town and to keep collecting. To try to collect everything that's on the streets every day and still maintain a schedule just isn't feasible. And so if it doesn't get called in ahead of time, we can't guarantee that we can collect it. So what happens is we pick up waste on Wednesday, gets collected, and then they come and bring out more on Thursday. We don't get it the next week because it wasn't called in, so we put it on the schedule for the following week. And then by the time we get it, it's been 2 weeks. And for some people, that seems like an eternity. Um, and obviously it's less than ideal. So we're going to kind of start pushing the education on that to hopefully get out in front of it a little bit. And it some of it could just be neighbors that don't really care. They just know that they put it out. And we take it at some point.
Right.
Um, and some of it could just be they're new to the area and didn't realize that was the process. So we figured we'll take that part out of the equation. We'll educate, and hopefully it sticks more than it doesn't, and we'll go from there.
What should people do with their appliances and so forth? I've seen different things out there where you suggest they take the doors off. Isn't that a safety, really a safety
Yes,
feature itself?
yes, and that is, I believe that's law. They have to do that if you're putting a fridge out or a washer or a dryer, anything where somebody could climb in and the door closes and they're trapped in there. Uh, Maybe you're getting rid of a deep freezer. Well, kids playing in the neighborhood aren't thinking, well, I could climb in there and close the door and then I'm stuck. They're thinking, oh, we're playing hide and seek or, whatever. I'm going to hide in there. They'll never find me. And then they get stuck. So because it's a safety hazard, I'm pretty sure it's law that they have to take off doors off of the appliances and things like that. But appliances are something that we take for free. At the moment, that's something that we do get a cutback for recycling. So as long as that's still the case, we will still collect appliances for free. We just ask again that you call ahead of time and we don't come on your collection day. And that's how we discover that you got a new fridge.
Um, you've got situations out there with recycling now, and I was just trying to glance to see if anybody else had a comment. The situation with recycling is that that money is generated to really help the city, correct?
Correct.
And that we're running a recycle program that then enables us to keep our costs down, because we're working that in such a fine way.
Right.
Um, and I've brought this up not just on this show, but I've actually had conversations out in public about this because I think the dialogue that needs to be had from other people is, I think we need to be bragging up and down the coast about what we do, because they're actually up and down the coast wanting to be very similar to us at this point.
Right.
And we've talked about this in the past that the best way to keep your taxes down is to recycle. And I want to bring this up because you said something I want to kind of hit here just real quick.
Okay.
Is that you said that the refrigerators and things like that, as long as we're making money on those, there won't be a charge for it. Well, that's because we are making money on those,
Right.
correct?
Right.
And if there wasn't a way to recycle these things, it would be an additional charge to city, correct?
Right. So then, if we're not able to recycle, let's say, um, your mass pile of move-in boxes, or around the holidays, all the Amazon and other boxes, toy boxes, things like that. Um, if people have bulk metal out there, if we're not able to recycle these things, um, we're paying whatever amount of a ton it is to dispose of those at the landfill, instead of being able to recycle those and get a cutback on from the secondary market. So obviously, paying instead of getting money costs a lot more. It-
I,
it's
I Go ahead.
it's not just the cost of what we're paying to dispose of it, but it's also you're adding what we're not getting for recycling it.
So
So
go ahead.
if
Go
we,
ahead.
like cardboard, if we take bulk cardboard and we get paid for cardboard, if we're not getting paid, take that, whatever per ton it might be, and add that to the actual tonnage fee for disposing of it. And then when you look at it like that, the cost is far more to dispose of it as waste than it is to recycle it.
the and I'm going to bring something in because I actually, our office is in a my office is in a different location than my house, and it's in a private business area, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and in the sense that, yes, while the city of Northport does go in and clean up the private trash collection and the recycle bins,
Right.
the city of Northport is not really responsible for on-site cleanup of the area itself, are they?
I believe, yes, it's all the responsibility of ownership at that point. It's privately maintained.
Yeah, because you've got to be able to go in and pick up the dumpsters. But
Correct.
other than that, I because I want to step back here for a second because there are certain things that people do, that affect, a lot of business owners, and a lot of different situations, and that's, like a little Tykes playground set. Does that go in a dumpster or does that go in a recycle bin?
That actually would depend. You'd be surprised what kind of things actually have a recycling number on them. And ideally, if they do have one of the numbers that we do accept, you're able to break it down into smaller pieces so we can collect it as recycling. For instance, I want to say it was probably right before the holidays, we were getting rid of a stand for the Nintendo Wii that held the unit, the games, controllers, all that stuff. And I brought it out, and I was just going to toss it in the garbage. And then I was like, well, you know what? Let me just look. And sure enough, this thing breaks down into like 30 different pieces. And each piece, sure enough, has the little one in the recycling circle. Um, and so all of it was recyclable. Um, there are quite a few things that people would be surprised are recyclable, as long as they're not large and bulky. We would still recycle them for sure.
What do these businesses do that where people are dropping things off? It's not part of the businesses over there, um, and there is bulk pickup type stuff in there. Are businesses allowed to have bulk pickup type pickups too?
That's a great question. As far as bulk pickups, I know
For
we
items
have.
they were left there by someone who disposed of them,
Right.
and I'm asking for a reason, don't you?
um, my assumption, I would say, give us a call,
Okay,
customer service, and we may be able to sort it out whether that's something we would take care of and either charge or not charge, or if we have to get another department in the city involved, that would handle that. They may want to take a look into it. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% certain on it.
okay. Well, and I know that this is not the show to talk about private and or the commercial and private, but the beauty is the resolve of the questions are still the same.
Right.
You have to be willing to pick up the phone and make the phone call to customer service to find out exactly what's going on.
Right.
And whether you were a business owner out there and you're dealing with somebody dropping trash off in your dumpster, um, and it's not anywhere near part of your job area, or anybody in your complex, I'm sure it happens. I've seen stranger things where hot water heaters have shown up in a dumpster.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that does happen. Um,
Right.
those are recyclable, so you should just. I think it's a recyclable, isn't it? A hot water heater.
Absolutely. As long as you drain the water, we'll take it.
So there's money in it. Um,
Correct.
and I dare say that there's enough. I don't want to call them junk guys anymore. There's a I guess there's probably a different title, like a domestic cleaner or a domestic hauler, that makes them feel better about picking up junk off the side of the road, but they make cash from it.
Sure.
Um, and I know we've all seen the trucks that are going up and down the roads. One of the easiest way to keep those guys off the roads, though, because most of them are driving old beat up cars and have other issues, is that if we handle these things through the recycling side of Northport,
Right.
you stop having the fear of making the phone call. Just increasing 25% of our recycling, couldn't that save our taxpayers more money next year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And things, again, this is something that I saw a few times, in the fall. For whatever reason, we had a rash of these, through the North Report app. People just like randomly dumping dryers or deep freezers or stuff like off and random, not highly populated areas, especially if you're talking out east. These things we'll collect them for free. If you just put your washer out by the roadside and give us a call, just put your deep freezer out by the roadside and give us a call. We'll pick that. It's not going to cost you anything. Least of all, not the gas it takes you to drive out, to the east side of town to dump it in a neighborhood nobody's at. You
Right.
know, it doesn't make sense. Why make that effort? Why load it up in a trailer or in your pickup truck to drive across town to dump it in a random neighborhood when we'll take it for free? We're not looking to charge you to pick up your fridge. We will take it for free. Please just stop dumping it in the woods.
Well, and I think people need to understand that at the end of the day, you're not refusing to take anything, right?
Correct. Well, I will say this: if you have a bulk pickup set aside, and there are some of the hazardous materials that we have on our website that we don't normally collect, paint cans, pool chemicals, uh, tires, propane cylinders, things like that. that we would call back, or if you're home while they're there, they may knock on the door and say, "Hey, we can't take this." Um, that will be the instance where we wouldn't necessarily collect your pile that day. We would follow up with you, ask you to take it out of the pile, and then take it.
Yep.
We have had a few neighborhoods where couldn't make contact with the resident and tried for several weeks to get them to handle it themselves. And eventually, Frank just said, "Listen, take the stuff that we can't collect out of the pile and take it." So, on that front, a good segue here for things like hazardous waste, tires, um, old gas, paint cans, chemical cleaners, things like that. The things that we wouldn't normally collect. We actually have our annual household hazardous waste collection event coming up on Saturday, March 12th from 8 to 12. That's at City Hall. So please, if you have these things, don't put them in your bulk piles. Don't take them to random parts of the city to just dump in the woods. Please do take them to City Hall, and we will be happy to take them.
What date is that again?
That is Saturday, March 12th from 8 to 12.
Well, I'm going to have to get in my garage, because if there's anybody who's lived in Northport any length of time, maybe just one summer, if you put your cans of paint in your garage, they bake and they dry.
Of course. For sure.
And the easiest way to get rid of those is bring those to.
Outside of this, you would normally have to bring them to the Chemical Collection Center on Jackson Road in Venice.
So if you do this once a year, right? If we do this once a year?
Correct, so once a year.
Get in there and clean out your garage and get this stuff out of your garage on what date?
That is Saturday, March 12th from 8 a.m. to noon.
Well, you've got your opportunity to clean out your garage, get rid of all that old dried out paint, and not have to drive all the way to Venice to do it.
Correct. So I will say we had someone who asked about old gasoline. And this person had, I don't remember exactly now, but I want to say like 40 gallons of old gas. I personally have never had 40 gallons of even good gas in my garage at any given time. I'm not judging. I don't know why this person would have 40 gallons of old gas. We will take that. They just said to make sure that you're okay with leaving the containers behind, because they're not going to transfer them to, a barrel or another storage unit or whatever. They will just take that gas as it is in the can that it's in, and that's that. So if you're okay with, let's say you have 10 gallons of gas that you've been sitting on for a year or two, and you don't think you can use it anymore and you're looking to dispose of it, bring it on by. Just be ready to lose the gas can that it's in.
Okay, that makes sense though. I mean, if you're willing to keep gas that long at the prices, well, we were cheaper, so I guess people may have been stocking up.
Could have been.
Gas does go bad. It doesn't last forever.
Correct.
But this has been a really interesting show. We've hit some really solid topics. But do you think we could get together with somebody next month and really talk about the water side of things?
Sure, absolutely. I will reach out over here, see if we've got anybody who's willing to come on and talk about the city's waterways and how we're getting ready for rainy season. Because by the time our next show comes up, we'll kind of be on the doorstep of rainy season for sure. So
I wonder if you could do me a favor, maybe reach out to somebody in the water department itself and see if there's anybody willing to come on for maybe the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Just to talk about the quality side of things and why all these things matter, why they run through the canals and they get into our drinking water. There's definitely some play there that works together hand in hand. You need a clapper. Clap on, clap.
Sure do.
That's right. So I if you could set that up, I think it'd be a really cool show, and we could have like a 5, 10, 15 minutes at the end of the show to really discuss really what happens with the drinking water once it goes through the canals and to the water department itself.
Absolutely.
So awesome. I really appreciate it, Chuck. I really appreciate your time, Brian. Thanks for the questions. You guys have a great day. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 and my good friend Billy at Public Works saying thanks and have a great day. Thanks, Billy, for being on, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on again.
Talk to you soon, partner.
See you guys.